Bruno, we're here today to tell the story of the Nintendo Switch drop and play some Mario Kart. We're already warming up to launch the Switch 2 drop, which was a success, and I wanted you to talk about the challenges of creating the first version for the old console.
I really like this drop because it brings together some of the talents we have here at STLFLIX that are truly our unique strengths. So within our team, we have designers who understand the reasoning behind products, how people actually use them. So which accessories make sense? What's the demand behind them? Then we have our engineering team that knows how to create the best fittings to make a product 100% functional. And finally, we also have our 3D artist team. So we're able to combine what the user needs with the technical requirements of the product and in the end, deliver an aesthetic that fits the gaming environment and context. So it's a drop that brings together all three of those pillars. I think that's a huge advantage we have here at STLFLIX, and that's why I consider it a really strong drop. We had to go through all three of those stages to arrive at this final product.
I actually remember well that this drop also had a challenge. Let's call it a production capacity challenge, because we had a number of accessories for the Nintendo, we had a number of available aesthetics, and then we were unsure. Should we add one less model?
Or even too many styles.
Exactly. In the end, I have a confession to make here. If you're watching this video, one of my favorite aesthetics didn't make it in. I'm a Nintender now, and the Mario Kart 1 didn't go into the official drop. What do you have to say in your defense, as one of the people voting for not letting it go live?
True, it's not like we can just say, let's go with a Mario Kart aesthetic and be done with it. That would mean creating a look that reminds people of the game, but at the same time, it can't actually be tied to the game directly.
Why?
Because you can't mess with copyright.
That's exactly the point I wanted to get to. Because it's really easy to say we wanted a Mario Kart or a Mario-style drop, especially because it's so iconic for the console, but for the product to be both legal and commercially viable, we also have that challenge.
Exactly. And Mario Kart would for sure be one of the hardest to adapt, because its style is cartoon racing. So we just couldn't land on something that looked good in the end. The models still need to look aesthetically appealing.
I think Mario Kart is actually one of the hardest to adapt because its entire style is cartoon car racing. From the sets that were released, you, as one of the biggest Nintendo reps at the time, which one is your favorite?
Man, I really like the one that has that elven, forest-inspired vibe. I think that one turned out super cool visually.
And do you have one of those at home? Are you printing it?
Yeah, I've got that one at home. I have it. It actually took me a while to find a model I really like to adapt to my Switch setup. I like playing with 4 players when I've got a group over, but the loose little controller, it's awful.
The little dinosaur hand.
And there were some models that had horrible print orientations. So I told the team, guys, we've got to find a way to make this print well and still work right. The L and R buttons. That's the big challenge. How do you print it upside down and still make sure the button presses work properly, while also making it printer-friendly and keeping it looking great? That balance was the hardest part to crack.
So you pushed the Nintendo idea, you told the team, let's do a drop about this, it's my favorite console. That's how it went, right?
No, it wasn't just like that. The idea for a drop never comes from one person's request, right? But if someone says, hey, here's an idea, someone on the team will look into it. But what we realized is that we have a lot of commercial subscribers. So where are the products that 3D printing can really add value to? Video game accessories are historically expensive. So if I can 3D print a high-quality gaming accessory, I've got a lot of margin to work with on that model. Then we noticed people were already printing video game accessories. We realized the ones that are worth buying are expensive. So there's a great opportunity to solve that problem well and turn it into a model that sellers can have great margins on and make it really profitable. So that was kind of the thinking behind the excitement. It's really fun to make Nintendo Switch accessories, but there's also a solid logic behind it.
Well, I actually really like this drop for another reason too. When we talk about PlayStation, even PC gamer setups, most accessories end up being just aesthetic, part of the setup. But in the case of Nintendo, dude, you actually need some of those accessories.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bad experience if you don't have them. Especially like I've got 2 Joy-Cons that turn into 4 controllers. But I only have 1 adapter that came with the console. So even if I'm playing 2-player, I still need that adapter to combine the Joy-Cons. And that adapter, if you go buy the mass-produced ones, they're super expensive. But they're not hard to make with 3D printing.
For the Joy-Con there, now that I'm playing, I'm really feeling how bad it is without this model. Like the guy's gonna play with his girlfriend. And in your case, here, babe, take the better controller. I'll stay here with the little dinosaur hand.
So then you lose the argument. you have no excuse anymore.
There's no excuse left after that. We talked a bit about the unique features you see in STLFLIX. This blend of product designers with artists. And I know that in this drop, there were challenges related to tolerances, creating what we call, for you who are buying this series, the base meshes. What do you consider, or what would you imagine were the biggest challenges in getting this drop done, passing it from engineers to the art teams?
One of the hardest parts is passing the project between departments. But going back a bit, for those who haven't watched the other episodes in the series, the base mesh is that foundational model we make, like a raw model without a skin. So I make the base model, then the 3D artist comes in and can either add or remove material.
They can remove material within the guidelines from the professionals.
Depending on the design restrictions. Exactly. The engineer will say, from here to here, don't touch it. This surface here is going to rest on the table. So the artist has to be really skilled at looking at those constraints, translating what's in the concept art into the model, and still respecting and not ruining those tolerances. So it's a complex combination of factors, and it's a big credit to our team here, who can manage this handoff step by step. Of course, there's a lot of testing, a lot of back and forth. It's not like we get it right the first time, whether it's the base mesh or the aesthetic layer. Sometimes the guy working on the aesthetic misses one little detail and boom, now the controller doesn't fit anymore. What happened? So this back and forth process is constant, and having people who manage those handoffs smoothly is what guarantees success.
There are some accessories that we suffer through just once to make. I'll give you an example. Headphones or video game controllers. We make them once, we find that perfect fit, and it works. Do you think working with Nintendo for the first time was an extra challenge? Compared to other drops, did the team follow the same timeline or not?
I think the big difficulty with the Nintendo Switch is that there are fewer models available. So when you're in the 3D printing space, there's like this global library of solutions. Like, for a phone holder, man, tons have already been made. So you can say, ah, this guy solved it like that. You can look at references and find a solution more easily. But with Nintendo Switch, there were few options, and the ones that existed were bad. So we had to dig into what was available, spot the ones with relevant elements, and then say, okay, what we want here is something simple. Are we gonna have to cut the little button? Maybe not. Let's work it through until we find a clean solution we can replicate, which is why we didn't keep expanding the series with more styles. We covered the main ones. And now that Switch 2 is out, we'll have to revisit it, right? But I feel like now we're way more prepared. If we were to make a V2, it'd be way easier and faster.
So, to sum it up, to help us understand the story of the Nintendo Switch drop, would you say it had something special compared to the others? Or was the process the same? And what is that process?
I don't think the Switch drop had anything special, but every stage of the process was hard. You know, it started with spotting the opportunity. As always, spotting the opportunity is about identifying what the 3D printing community is looking for, what they want to print. That's the main requirement. It's a business opportunity for the commercial crowd. That's the requirement. So in this case, that commercial opportunity came to our team. Then the next step, what accessories are needed? So we look at the gamer's environment, how people play, etc. What do we need to design? 2-player controller, single controller, dock. There were a few more options, but in the end, we kept those 3. Let's say those 3 need base meshes. And for each one of those base meshes, what are the technical requirements? What are the tolerances, fitting methods, etc.? And especially print orientation. There's no point making a model that looks good, but prints terribly. So, print orientation. Once we solved the base meshes, the concept team drew over those base meshes to create the aesthetic styles. Once those were done, the 3D artists sculpted over each of the base meshes, and finally, we got to the printing stage and printed all the models. Then we shot the drop videos. So yeah, this was a drop where every step took a lot of work. Some drops are easier in parts, with fewer interactions or smoother paths. Like the dice tower we made, it basically has a fixed path for the dice to fall. It's not hard. It's more about modeling the base mesh, which is easier to solve. But for this one, every part required serious work to get right.
Now the big question, are you more excited to get a Switch 2 now?
Man, I'm super hyped for the Switch 2. I messed up, brought one for Hugo, and didn't bring one for myself.
I brought my Switch 2 that I had ordered from him, but he didn't bring one for himself. Then when it got to Brazil, and he saw the prices,
when I played my first Mario Kart,
people can definitely get hyped for a Switch 2 drop on STLFLIX.
You can get excited for a Switch 2 drop, and I won't say any more than that.
We're working with Damiani's support to help make this drop. So if you're into gaming and trust a specialist's opinion, We brought in someone to help us out. And now that I'm playing Switch 2, I've got two concerns about it. First, comfort and usability, because Nintendo accessories are really expensive, so a drop can help a lot. Second, for those with a commercial subscription, I saw a guy on TikTok this weekend posting that he got a takedown notice because he was selling models related to Nintendo games. Then on Mercado Libre, he already got a warning that he had to remove them from the platform. So the advantage of this STLFLIX drop for those selling is that we'll definitely create something that you can sell without worry. That's another big thing I think is awesome. We'll make a Nintendo accessory, but you won't have to worry about Nintendo's lawyers. Obviously.
We're going to work with the main aesthetics of the gaming world like we always do. Stuff that's more general and safe, of course. But they're going to look awesome, no doubt about it. And there won't be any copyright issues. No one's going to come after you legally for selling this model.
You can relax and get hyped. If you don't want to miss the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2 drop, subscribe to the STLFLIX channel. If you liked learning a bit more about the process behind this drop, leave your like below. See you in the next video.
Thanks, everyone.